Hey everybody, welcome to the 1804 show. I'm your host, Dollar Will, and thank you for joining me on this lovely Thursday evening. And we finna get it popping. And I got somebody special coming out the blue, you know what I'm saying? Like, she came out of nowhere, reached out to me, was like, hey, I want to be on the show. So I told her, okay, let's get it popping, Like, I don't mind, interviewing people who come to me, and I'm just happy, very happy. Got a track for one of my OGs, Skywalker. It's called Zeros. I'm gonna make sure the link is in on the wall after the episode's over. So, but yeah, y'all, I just appreciate everybody who be showing me love, watching the videos, and showing me love. Well, let's get it started. Hey, good evening.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, I am wonderful. Tired, but wonderful.
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah. So, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I actually just finished seeing my last client a little while ago, and so was getting prepared for tonight.
Yeah, me too. I was at the day one job, so
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I can't wait. Can't wait to hear what you got to say.
Yes, yes. Well, thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. I'm a good host. Anybody welcome who got some damn sense. So, thank you for coming.
Yes, yes. I follow the interviews and things that you do, and you're doing a great job. So, definitely happy to be a part of this experience.
Thank you, thank you. So, how about you tell us a little bit about your background and what you specify and all the good stuff?
Yes. So my name is Domonika Thomas, and I am a licensed mental health therapist in the state of Michigan, as well as a certified professional life coach. I own my own mental health practice, Uplift and Inspire LLC, as well as I own another business. It's called Uplift and Inspire Mindfulness Coaching. Absolutely love them. Yes, yes. Originally from Saginaw, but I moved away from Saginaw, I want to say in 2010. But I come back every now and again and absolutely love where I'm from. I feel that it's helped shape, mold me into the individual that I am. And so now being in the position that I am, I want to be able to give back to those that may not have experienced anything outside of the city mentality that we can have in Saginaw.
Ooh, man, you said a mouthful.
Yes.
Yes, what made you want to get into mental health or like mental illness? What made you wanted to
Mhm.
do that?
Yeah, so originally, my first degree is in criminal justice. So when I was a kid, I watched the movie Harriet the Spy, and I'm not sure if you remember that movie or not,
Oh yeah,
but
I do.
Harriet the Spy, I seen that movie, and from that moment, I was like, I don't care what anybody says, I'm going to be a spy for the government. That was it. And
Ooh.
literally, from the time I seen that movie as a kid, all the way up into my associate's degree, I got my associate's degree in criminal justice, and nobody could tell me anything. Up until somebody was like, "Yeah, but what happens if you have to separate a family? What are you gonna do?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's not happening." So I knew that would immediately be a conflict of interest. But long before I even made my way to social work, when I was in third grade, my mother was diagnosed with cancer. And so from 3rd grade all the way to 11th grade, she kind of on and off with cancer treatments and things like that. And going through that process as a kid, you learn to maneuver and think very differently. And so, of course, I went through the anger, I went through the frustration of not being able to live life as I thought I should, like every other kid did. And it took me a long time to get to this place and finally just say, you know what? I need to do something different with it. But actually, how I got into social work to begin with, my now ex-husband, but husband at the time, actually was like, I think this will be something that's good for you. Like this, what you're talking about doing, just the person that you are, I think social work is a good avenue. So, I decided to go that route, but even in the process of that, I still wasn't healed. I still did not know kind of where to put all of my frustration. And so I had to go through therapy myself, and it was tough because African Americans aren't always taught to go talk through our problems. We use other mechanisms for that. And so went through my different degrees, went through my master's degree and things like that. And by the time I made it to my master's degree, I was like on the verge of knowing where I was going with it, but still like resistance to the process. And so, as I was going through my degrees, I actually was linked through an internship in Grand Rapids to Gilda's Club of Grand Rapids, and definitely changed my life. I decided in that moment that I can no longer allow all the pain and the hurt that I went through to crush me. It had become so debilitating. And so decided to make a career of it. I decided to turn some of the most painful moments of my life into my greatest passion. And so went through, by the time I made it to my master's degree, decided to specialize in mental health and chronic illnesses. And so, now I'm here, and that's how my brand was born, really from experiencing firsthand what it's like to live with a terminally ill parent, and just learning how to work my way through the grief and the pain.
Yeah, and I think you're doing a remarkable job, because a lot of people don't see mental health and see African Americans go through that, because we have this thing that our trauma was never taken serious since
Mm-hmm.
slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Because like they used to do, they used to sell the kids and sell whoever, and then
Yeah.
the next day we was forced to go back to work like nothing happened.
Yeah.
So we always kept that stigma, like from generation to generation. And what kills me is that PTSD doesn't get discussed in the Black communities
Mm-hmm.
at all.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I had it, and a lot of
Yeah.
people really thought, yeah, I had it from the death of my brother.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I was struggling with that for 5 years,
Yeah.
but I conquered it now. But when it was like in the beginning stages, I knew that something was wrong with me, and I didn't know what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just that I would just have these nightmares, and I would just like whatever triggered me,
Yep.
I would be on offense.
Oh
I'd be
yeah.
ready to hurt
Yeah.
somebody. And everybody be like, damn nigga, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with me, but get the fuck away from me. But it just takes a lot to admit that you need help, because
Oh yeah.
we just have this. Well, I can only speak from the man standpoint, but
Mm-hmm.
when you're a Black man, it's like you're a robot, because people act like you don't have no feelings, you have no
Yeah.
emotions, like you're so invincible. But I recommend everybody to go seek
Mm-hmm.
counseling,
Mm-hmm.
because we don't really have anyone to really talk to. We don't have healthy coping mechanisms. We don't have healing circles.
Yeah.
We just told to shit man up, and that's it. So
Yep.
what would you say to these young women out here who keep telling us that, or anybody that matters?
Yeah. And I'll say this, It definitely starts as a child. It starts out, with the mindset of, if you're a boy child, you cannot express those emotions. Why are you crying? You're a boy, you're not a sissy, you're this. And we start to say those things and we don't realize how hurtful they are. That's one thing that both myself and my ex-husband have agreed upon with our children. We have a daughter and a son, but we have agreed that we are going to allow our children to go through that healthy process, that emotional process. Is it sometimes where my son is like crying? I'm like, come on, like tell me what's going on. But what we don't realize is when we tell a male child that he cannot express his feelings, that becomes deep seated and ingrained in him. And so as you go through life, people are trying to figure out, why don't you show enough emotion? And then when you get into relationships, the one thing that people are saying is, you're not emotionally available. You lack that emotional availableness, and you're trying to figure out, like, okay, what's the problem? I've been taught that I should not do this, and now you're telling me that it's a problem. And so we have to start as parents, especially younger parents in this generation here and now. Yeah, we have to let our kids know how important it is to go through their emotional journeys, because when you stun that growth, you wonder why people have a lot of immaturities. They're not able to express emotion correctly. They may be very impulsive. It's because they weren't allowed that. And throughout life, they may have continued to be traumatized by going through someone telling them, why are you crying? Why are you doing this? And identifying directly with their gender of why they can't be allowed to do something. And so it is really hard. We have to stop doing that. We have to allow our boy children to cry. When we have girl children, we say that's the expectation that we set for them. We don't say we don't expect the girl children not to cry. We say, oh, it's a girl, let her cry. But if it's a boy, we're so quick to just try to stun them of that. And later in life, when they grow up and they have partners, their partners are struggling with getting them to express love, getting them to express affection. And so we have to stop that. I see so many people that come into my office, and honestly, I'll say this, even at first, I had a lot of Caucasian people that were in my office. I can tell you now, I'm starting to see Black men come into my office. And they're running in there like, listen, I need help. There's things that I was taught that's very toxic when it comes to relationships, and why I think I need to go run to other women, why I feel like I can't express myself emotionally. And they're saying, look, this is it. I'm ready. I know I have to change. And that's why I thank 2020, because if it wasn't for 2020, a lot of African Americans and minorities would not, and I want to say minorities, I like to say culturally diverse people, we would not have had the opportunity to walk into a therapy office without shame. Because now people aren't questioning when someone says something is happening with them mentally, and their strain and their stress, because everybody got their ass kicked, excuse my language, by 2020. So now it's the given that if someone says, hey, I'm going to a therapist, people are just going to assume, okay, 2020 got to you too. And so I tell people, take this opportunity to go and heal yourself. It's okay to go and do that. You do not want to be sitting here years later saying, you know what, I never got it fixed, and to the end of my life. That's what you start to see. People grow up with this emotionally stunned, and finally they get to a point where they're much older, and now they're just figuring it out. Why wait that long? If you notice it, get the help now.
Yeah, and it's never too late. Yeah, because
Mm-hmm.
I had to talk to somebody too, because I was in a abusive relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone think abuse is just physical, but any type of abuse
Mm-hmm.
is dangerous and hazardous,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
and me being like my size and
Mm-hmm.
everything like that,
Mm-hmm.
um, I was afraid of being the the aggressor, because
Yep.
usually in relationships it's always the man
Mm-hmm.
that's the aggressor, but it's anyone, and it's
Yeah.
just like, well, and it's just, what's worse is that we're the only ones that's held accountable for
Mm-hmm.
things, and I just wish that that um, double standard can be destroyed, because it has well, it really never really we never really progressed with
Yeah.
just the man being held responsible. And I was just, hurt because it's like I was raised by women, and
Hmm.
when it comes to women, I give them nothing but love and affection and attention. But when a woman see that, they think, oh, you be entertaining these hoes and this and that like that. But
Yeah.
no, it's just I love women so much, because of my mom and
Hmm.
my sister made me appreciate women because I
Hmm.
know y'all struggle. I know what y'all have to go through just to survive. But
Hmm.
I can't turn my love off from a woman no matter what I go through. Like I've been through a lot.
Yeah.
I've been robbed. I've been robbed by a woman. I had
Mm.
money stolen from me. I had my character assassinated by a woman, but I will always love y'all because of the fact, like, shoot, I can't love a man
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and
But you know
everybody
what?
knows that.
We
So,
definitely we have to start talking about that fact. A lot of people don't realize that abuse is not just the physical. You know, bruises heal. All abuse is like somebody physically hurts you, you know that eventually you're going to heal. It's the mental and the emotional that people don't realize that really affects people. And you hit a good point where because of your size, being an African American male, people would look at you and say immediately, oh, he had to be the one that was the aggressor, not thinking that this other individual could have literally been the aggressor, and kind of portrays this role of, hey, because they're going to think that he's the aggressor, I get to sit back and watch it happen. But we can't continue to do that. And we can't continue to shame men that go through abuse from women, because just like you said, you have a soft spot for women because of your appreciation for, excuse me, for all of the things that women have taught you throughout the years and the way that you were raised and exposed to women. And so we have to do a lot better with that. Trust me, I know people personally that have went through abuse, emotionally, spiritually, physically, from women, but because the stigma is that the men are the aggressor, or they shouldn't allow a woman being in her weak state to do anything to them, to abuse them, when that's simply just not the case. There's more than the physical, but we only talk about the physical, and men aren't able to really say if they're ever abused because they're expected to be very strong.
yeah, and pretty much, we be humiliated when we go public with our abuse.
Hmm.
We be humiliated. We be ridiculed. We be like, you know, man, your big ass let that happen and this and that. And
Hmm.
it's not always about that. It's about when somebody get into your head, when
Yep.
somebody get into your mind
Hmm.
and make you believe that you're nothing. Because
Yep.
this person made me feel like I was nothing,
Yeah.
and I believed her. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And it could happen to anybody.
Oh
And
yeah,
everyone,
absolutely, absolutely. People don't understand, and the cycle of abuse, people don't understand. They can't understand why someone could hurt someone physically, mentally, emotionally, and that person still has a will to want to be nice to them or to be around them. It's because once someone infiltrates your brain, your mind, and they keep telling you something over and over and over again, you're eventually going to start to let that sink in and say, you know what, because this situation happened, that person has to be telling the truth about what they're saying. Because this happened to me, this has to be true. A lot of those people are considered narcissists. And if they don't have an official diagnosis, I like to say they have narcissistic tendencies, a lot of them. And they like to get into people's mental and get you to believe what they want you to believe about them, about yourself. And it's simply not the case. And people think that abuse begins and ends with you dating and breaking up with that person, but it does not. The emotional and mental abuse that they do, you still have to handle and figure out how to come through. Because I don't like to say get over, we always say get over, go around, but we have to go through the pain. We already are experiencing it, so we got to go all the way through to its entirety to fully understand our journey when we've been through abuse. So, I'm sorry that that happened to you, and hopefully that individual has since gone and talked to someone and understands, You just can't go around emotionally and mentally and physically abusing someone and thinking that it's okay because of their size or who they are. It's just not right.
Absolutely. And I think that we need to be careful while meeting people as well, because, once a person realizes that you're vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of times we be so um fragile ourselves,
Yep.
and that we don't want to be alone, and we don't want to
Mm-hmm.
take our time of self preservation,
Mm-hmm.
that we feel like we gotta, you know take the pain away, not just permanently but temporary. So we
Yeah.
need to flip the temporary and put it into
Mm-hmm.
permanent.
Yeah.
So that's what I had to do, because I had to look myself in the mirror and ask myself, why would I allow this? And me being who I am as a intelligent person, I was like, why did I let my guard down to
Mm-hmm.
the point that I wasn't loving myself? I was loving them more than I was loving
Mm-hmm.
myself.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people get, caught up in that type of situation. So
Mm-hmm.
you can't always go into a relationship with your heart. You got to go with your mind too.
You definitely have to have a fine-tuned balance. And I tell people this, you said the right thing. A lot of people don't like to be alone. So when you went through that experience, immediately you probably was like, no, I'm not going to be with anybody. And then the human part of you set in, and you're like, well, maybe so. And that's how a lot of people end up in relationships that they're not supposed to be in. We have where the younger people think that being toxic is a cool thing until you actually experience someone that is toxic is all get up, and they don't know how to handle it and untie themselves from that person. I did a podcast show about that, because I'm not sure if I mentioned that as well. I also have a podcast, and I talked about that on the podcast, just really understanding oneself, being mindful of the things that we go through, and just not sitting down and taking anything that someone gives us, being okay with being alone. When we go into relationships, we should be asking people, how was your childhood, and really being paying attention to that. What things affect you? What do you really care about? What are you passionate about? And we shouldn't just like the icebreaker questions. Oh, yeah, we got a good vibe, so we meant to be together. A lot of times you may be drawn to that person because they are still a hurt person, because they still have puzzle pieces that they haven't put back together. And so we have to ask those questions and not go in forming trauma bonds with people thinking that there are lifelong partners, when really you were attracted to them because the hurt that's in you is the hurt that's in them. So we have to do better as people when it comes to significant others. We have to do better with saying, I can't be with anyone until I heal myself. And of course we're human, so whatever is done, but we have different needs as human, basically, is what I'm saying, without getting x-rated. But
Hey, for real.
it's one of those things where you can still have your needs met, but you never should go into someone else's life knowing that you're still not put together. I had to tell an individual, like, and people think that when I talk to them in a certain type of way that is rude, but it's honest. I had to speak to an individual, and I said, how dare you come and try to date me when you're not all the way together? You should be embarrassed of yourself to come to me knowing that you're not healed. You should not be trying to be with anyone. And people don't like you to tell them stuff like that because it hurts. They walk away like, man, you done bruised my ego. Like, how you gonna tell me this? But it's the truth. Why would you want to go and be with someone else knowing you're going to inflict pain upon them? And what happens is, once we care about someone, we don't want to immediately walk away. We want to be the person that didn't leave their side, that did not leave them, that did not inflict more pain. But sometimes we have to break our own hearts to make sure that we save our sanity.
Yeah, yeah, because I had to, well, in a sense, I had to make her leave me,
Mm-hmm.
and because when I love somebody, it's really hard for me to let them go, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm such a loyal person.
Uh-huh.
No matter what you do to me, I'ma always, you know, look at the fact like, this person, came to me for a reason. I need to figure out what that reason was, and
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
need to have get a conclusion.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just best to let them go, because it's
Yeah.
priceless.
Listen, trust me. I have clients that come into my office. I'm virtual now. Come into my virtual office, and I mean, if people heard their stories, and people that had heard their stories, they'll be like, why do you still want to be with this person? What makes you want to be with them? And they're not good for you, and everybody sees it. And this person said the same thing that you just said, Will. They said, I'm so loyal that even though this person has done things that have hurt me, I still have to be loyal to them. And I say, you know what? We have to redefine what loyalty looks like. I can be loyal to you, but not allow you to hurt me. I can be loyal to you even when you're not around me. I can be loyal to you, not talk bad about you, but I don't have to let you hurt me. I don't have to let you in my circle. I don't have to let you in my bubble. And that's what, we have the saying, a lot of people like, oh, nobody's in my circle. Nobody. That should be a true thing. It shouldn't just be a hashtag. Everybody doesn't deserve the inner part of you. Everybody doesn't deserve to know every move that you're making and all the wonderful things that are transitioning within your life. And those people that come through our life, absolutely, they come for a reason. But it's okay for us to keep learning what that reason is, even when they've passed on through.
Yeah, I agree. And to be honest, my healing began last March,
Mhm.
when I took on a second job.
Mhm.
And when I took that second job, it gave me my confidence in myself back,
Yeah.
and allowed me to be productive instead of sit around and just questioning myself, like, what's something I did wrong, or
Mhm.
was she right, or was
Mhm.
she wrong? I just took it
Yeah.
upon myself to take my life back,
Mhm.
and that's something, because a lot of people, whether if it's you know moving into another city, or whether if it's going to another church, people is afraid of change. People scared of change,
Oh
and
yeah.
and I realized that I had to change my entire routine in order for me to overcome that.
Yes.
And it just also just admit that it was not I didn't do anything wrong. I just did it for the wrong person, but I didn't do
Mhm.
anything wrong.
Mhm.
So a lot of people is afraid to come to that realization that they do all the right things
Yep.
for the
It's
wrong
for the
people.
wrong person. Yeah. And that's true.
Mhm.
I could tell you, there has not been one situation ever in my life where I have not been able to learn a lesson from that. Or during that moment, I'm like, okay, why am I going through this? Why is this happening? And later down the line, it completely makes sense. So I've gotten to the point when something happens good or bad, I just accept that lesson, because I know it always comes full circle. I always have a reason for running into someone. I always have a reason for connecting. I always have a reason for, whatever it is, if it's the hurt, the pain, the good and the bad. I've been there. That's why I can tell people when I'm sitting across from people and I'm talking to them about grief, because that's one of the things when you have a parent that goes through terminal illness, you go through a lot of grief. I specialize in grief counseling, the death and dying process. I worked for hospice, oddly enough, for cancer patients just a year ago. I decided to do that. And so I have always challenged myself since I was an adult to say, you know what? These things that hurt me, I can't allow them to control me, but I can help someone else who's experienced this and think that this is life for them. A lot of times we're hurt by something and we think that's just how it's supposed to be. I realized that I was in a different mindset when I left Saginaw. I knew when I left Saginaw that something wasn't right completely when I was driving down the street and someone looked and smiled and I was offended, like, what you looking at me for? Like, what is happening? And I'm telling you, we don't understand because we're on defense there. We have a lot of, because just the way the city is, there's a lot of wonderful people in the city. It's just the people that have been hurt to the point of they just don't want the help, or they just don't know how to get the help, or they're not ready for the help yet, that continue to inflict pain. And so people feel like, okay, if I go to a party, if I go to the store, if I want to hang out with my family, I always have to be on defense. And I've realized that about myself. I left Saginaw, but as I like to say, I wouldn't let the Saginaw mentality go for a very long time. It took me 5 years after leaving Saginaw to finally go and sit down with a therapist. And that's been a while. Like I was like, I'm good. I moved to a new city. I'm great. This is new beginnings. But what people don't realize is you can move. The problem is all of that comes with you. Your mind doesn't get left somewhere else. You have to do the work. You have to be willing to go through the pain and rehash it out with the therapist to really know why you feel the way that you feel. You know, and so when people don't do that, a lot of people will say, I know that I had a horrible childhood, or things where they weren't the best for me. I'm an adult now. I know that it hurt me. It doesn't affect me. I'm willing to challenge any person that says that. I've seen so many people sit across from me in my office and tell me, I know I had a rough childhood, but it doesn't affect me anymore. That's not why I'm not emotional with my significant other. That's not why I'm not able to see other people's point of views. It's not why I'm codependent. And I'm like, okay, well, tell me when all of these things started. What is your memory? Why did you form these habits? And it always goes back to that initial person inflicting pain. And then after that, that person being attracted to that same pain over and over and over again through different people in life. So, you know, we have to do something different.
Oh, absolutely. And it's just people don't really understand, like once you see a pattern,
Mm-hmm.
you know, patterns don't lie. People do, but patterns is so transparent. And with me, I feel like that we just need something to do. Like we really need those programs that we had as kids, you know,
Oh,
and
yeah.
because these kids nowadays, like, whew, it's just really unfortunate because they
Mm-hmm.
missed out on the things that we was given
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
and I just want to be able to, you know, show a kid that you don't gotta be out here gang banging, you don't gotta be out here in
Mm-hmm.
these streets to be cool. It's
Yeah.
cool. It's cool to be smart. It's cool
Mm-hmm.
to work. It's cool. It's cool to be a law-abiding citizen, a taxpayer,
Yeah, it
a
is.
businessman,
Yeah.
college student, and all
And
that.
yeah, people don't understand that though, because, you know, and I'll say this, it's not to negate what the government does. It's not to negate the history of why people feel the way they feel. However, we know that this government structure is what it is. We know things are the way that they are. We cannot continue to worry about things that we have no control over, but we need to fix the things that we do. And so, like, even in Saginaw, I moved out of Saginaw a long time ago now, and I posted on my page, I want to say like a few weeks ago. And I went to Neil Haley Elementary School. I lived in Sheridan Park. Like, that's where I was raised. I had wonderful memories. I remember laying in my front yard at nighttime with a blanket, looking up at the sky. Nothing was going on, you know, and that school has since shut down. And I was talking to people and I said, listen, why don't we all come together and buy that school? Why not? Let's start to put things into our community, because what we're not realizing is, because they don't see the worth in our communities, then there's no reason for them to come into invest in the communities. If we start to take our dollars that we have and say, you know what, I'm going to create these programs, I'm going to fund these programs. Start looking at, I know Saginaw Community Foundation, I worked there when I was in high school, so I know that the grants and the things are there. We just have to know where to tap in. We have to be okay with asking people where these resources are, and that's a lot of the problem. We don't want to ask people because we don't want people to either know what we're doing, or we don't want people to feel like, oh, you don't know that. So a lot of times people miss out on a lot of opportunities where there's funding, where there's opportunity for growth. Myself right now, as a business owner, I own multiple different businesses under my brand. Right now, I'm going through the process to try to become certified by the government, so that as a woman and as a minority woman, I can start to get government contracts for my business. And people don't realize that there are monies out there. But when we talk about, oh, we don't have the money, they're not giving us the money. No, you just have to know where to look for the money or connect with the people that know where it's at so that they can give you details of how to get that.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I just think that, before we get outside the community, we
Mm-hmm.
really need to get into these homes,
Mm-hmm.
because that's where it starts. The stuff that is swept under the rug, and the stuff that you better not tell whatever happens in this house stays in this house. We need to
Yes.
stop. We need to
Yep.
stop that.
Yeah. We definitely, I talked to so many people about that. That's traumatic to tell someone when you're in this home, anything that happens outside of this home, you are not to talk about. We hear it over and over and over. And this is why we can have that uncle or that cousin that everybody know is a little bit too touchy feely. We're protecting that person more than we're protecting the person that they hurt. And we have to stop doing that, especially in the African American communities. I talk about it all the time. We can't keep protecting that uncle, that cousin, that auntie, whoever. We can't keep protecting that person, because what we're telling the victim of that, what we're telling the person that has been traumatized is, we care about you, but we don't care about you as much as we care about this person and protecting them. And a lot of times people know that things are happening, but when they know, they don't want to say anything. And if they finally do say something, that person's going to look at them like, you knew the entire time and you didn't say anything because you didn't want people to look at you in a certain way to save face. So we definitely, it goes all the way down to the core of our beginnings. And when we're growing up, we cannot continue to create these trauma bonds. We can't continue to go out into the world and think that it's okay to carry our trauma everywhere with us. I talked about it on my podcast. Like, we got to stop saying that toxic is what we want. We joke about everything. And I know it's a part of our culture. It's ingrained in us as culturally diverse people. It's ingrained in us because we've always been strong people. We've always had to be strong people. And it continues to this day. But it comes a point where even the strong person needs someone to say, you know what? I got you. I'll carry you now. It's okay. I got your back. I'm going to help you. I'll lead you. And we have to know that we can trust that.
Yeah, yeah, because they put so much on a person that's strong, and I think that's really unfair, because they don't look at the strong individual or the strong friend as the person that, like, has problems as well.
Mm-hmm.
and and anybody can go crazy, anybody can go ballistic,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it just I feel when you're strong, it just everybody like, oh, well, they don't care about how your day going or if you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
They just like, oh, well, you gonna make it because you been through worse and this and that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if anyone has been through worse. It's all
Mm-hmm.
about how much a person can take, because everyone
Yeah.
has a limit.
Yeah, you know what? And the thing is, in our families, it's always a role that's provided to someone. They didn't ask for the role. They didn't say, I want to be the person that's the strong one in the family. I want to be the provider for people in the family. I want to be the one to carry everybody's emotional weight. But we give people roles and we never ask them if they're okay with it. We never say, hey, are you okay with being the person that the family goes to talk about all their problems, to be the financial person, to be the person that keeps everything together? We just assume because of their character and their build, because we've tested it out, we test the theory and see if they can handle those things. We just automatically say, hey, this is the person you go to for that, without even reassuring or asking them if they're okay with it. And so a lot of times you see the people that are super strong, and you would never know that something is going on unless they say it. We see people all the time that unfortunately commit suicide, and we're like, that person was one of the happiest people that I knew. Why would they go and commit suicide? I didn't see that coming. Usually the people that are always happy and trying to carry so much, they don't feel comfortable with opening up about things because they know that people are just going to say, oh, you're strong, you'll get through it. I've seen you get through worse. When that's not what we need to say. We need to say, you know what? I understand that, you know, everybody has a point where they need support. How can I help you? How can I be a listening ear? What can I do for you? Is there anything I could take off of your plate? We have to ask those questions and not just assume because they've been strong, they necessarily are strong in those situations.
So I have a question for you.
Yes,
So do you believe that the golden child and the scapegoat child exist?
absolutely. Absolutely. Um, I can tell you this, having two children, I would never. My children know it's an equal playing field. Now, do I know as a parent which one of my children requires a lot more attention than the other? Absolutely. But I would never sit there and say, hey, you're the child that I have to be on a little bit more, and you're the child that I know you got it. I'm not going to be there for you. Because what it creates is this dynamic, and it can create a feud. It really can. It can create a feud of, okay, this the child that's always doing something. This the hard-headed one. This the bad child. I do not like when people tell children that they're a bad child or they can't get it or this, because what you're telling that child is this is who you are. This is ingrained in you. There's nothing you can do to fix that. When really it's just, okay, the parent needs to teach them and guide them a little bit better. But you have the scapegoat child, you have the golden child, where, and the golden child has it rough too, because the golden child is the child where, oh, I know you got it, you good, let me put you on this pedestal, everything that they do is just praise, it's worship, and they can't do no wrong. And then the scapegoat child is like, I should have known you were going to do that. You've been doing that since you were a kid. Nothing's changed. And we keep feeding those negative things into them instead of saying, you know what? What is it that I can do to be a better parent to you? What is it I can do to just make sure that you know that you're supported and that you're loved? But we see it all the time. So yeah, I definitely, in my opinion, believe that those two types exist.
And that's one of the reasons why I didn't want to have children so young, because it was a lot of things from my childhood that was totally unfair.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to make sure when I became a father, it was something that I was ready for.
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised how many women be so shocked when I tell them I'm 33 years old with no children,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, "Oh, what's wrong with you? Don't you want
Yeah.
kids, or don't you like women and this and that?" I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
no, like it's just about being prepared for that, because
Yeah.
when I have my family is gonna see me every day. They're
Mm-hmm.
gonna know who I am, but also I would not allow my kids to put me on a pedestal or
Mm-hmm.
expect to have so high expectations over me. But I'm gonna let them know, like kids, your father human. Your father
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
worked to get to this point, not
Mm-hmm.
just taking care of y'all, but making sure that I was the right fit for y'all,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I just want my kids to know that I will love and appreciate their existences,
Mm-hmm.
which I never gotten. I never gotten that I love you from my father or
Yeah.
and stuff, and everybody just kind of like be in a rush,
Mm-hmm.
because it's painful knowing that you was conceived off lust than love,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
which
trust
a
me,
lot of us
I've been
were.
there. I was raised in Saginaw right where my father was, and I don't have a relationship with my father. My father has a ton of kids. As far as I know, maybe 15. But
Damn.
I don't have a relationship with my father. I can tell you, I remember the day that I got married to my ex-husband. I went and found my father, even though he had not been there for me. And I just wanted to let him know, like, look, I got married, all this. And I tell you that it was a heartbreaking thing when my father said, okay, I'm proud of you. Congratulations. And I'm going to come over to the reception. And he never showed up. It literally took for me. Now I have two children. My son will be 9. My daughter will be 7 soon. And it took for my children asking me, Mom, do you have a father? Because they had never seen or heard me talk about having a father. It took my kids to ask me that, to say, you know what? I at least have to show you all who he is. So me mustering my pride up, I want to say 2020. That's from 2011 all the way until 2020. That's when I just seen my dad again. And he lives right in the city. I know where he at. And it took me going to see him, and I video chatted my kids and I said, you all wanted to know if I had a father. This is him. And for me, that meant everything, because even though I had my issues with him and him not being able to be available, I knew that I couldn't deprive my children of that. Now, have I talked to him since? No, I haven't talked to him. But the fact that I was able to answer that question for my kids and not say, well, you don't need to know who he is, even though they have people in their family, even though they have their father, even though they have their father's father and things like that. Still, that was something that they wanted to know because they had never seen or heard me talk about that. But if I would have continued to be hurt and feel all types of pain, I could have been selfish and said, well, you don't need to know. Of course I have a father, and really been just short with them. And that would have been like, oh, well, we don't talk about that topic with mom. That's not something you talk about. I want my kids to know they can talk about anything with me. There's not a cutoff. I want them to feel supported, and so we go through those things, and people don't understand. It's very important who you have children with. Even though I went through a divorce, I can tell you, I'm very blessed. My kids are very blessed. We went through our divorce with the one thing that we promised each other before we had children, and the thing that we still hold true today is that our children will always be supported. They will always have their mother and their father, no matter where we are in this world. Everything we do is for our children. And so our children have a lot to look up to, because I'm doing a lot and their father's doing a lot. Now, I say that, but I also say this. We're setting the path for them, but it's their decision where they go. As long as we're
Right.
setting it for them, we're providing for them emotionally, and all of that. As long as we're meeting all of the needs that they have, and we're raising them to be healthy. I've told my children, I could have went through tons of college. Your father could have went to tons of college. But the thing that matters most to me is that whatever you choose to do in life, you are proud of that. And you know that you have people that are going to support you. So I don't think it's nothing wrong with you telling people, like, I don't want kids until I get to that place. There's so many toxic women that's like, yeah, come on, I want to have a kid. But then they have a kid, and all of a sudden they think that you're supposed to be whoever it is that they had in their head, when it was all lust. It wasn't sitting down and saying, hey, let's talk about how we're going to do this. How are we going to provide for a child? We have a lot of children that were conceived, and now it's a whole bunch of angry people that go on rants on Facebook and in the inboxes and stuff, because they went off of lust, and they didn't go off of, hey, I really love this person. And because I love this person, we're going to decide to have a child, and we're going to make sure our child has that love. It wasn't off of that. So we have to pull that back in and understand that being toxic is a real thing, but that toxicity doesn't just go away. You can actually form a child, and now that child is going to grow up with questions. All children do. Children want to know where their fathers are, where their mothers are. And please don't talk about the other parent in a bad way, because now that child is confused on why mommy or why daddy is saying that mama or daddy is this. We have to do way better. Our feuds with people cannot be the feuds of our children. That's completely individual. Our only concern should ever be to make sure that our children have the seed sown in their head that there's love, that there's things that happen in real life, but there's always solutions and understanding.
And I agree with you. And I really hate that when it comes to when when you have to explain to a child who has an absentee parent,
Mm-hmm.
and why they don't, because there's a lot of deadbeat moms and a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
deadbeat fathers,
Yeah.
but but the thing is, it's a lot of single fathers too,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the thing I
Mm-hmm.
really despise, because that's one sided, and I wish that single fathers get put in that light, because the first
Yep.
thing that they're gonna do, especially at funerals, is that,
Mm-hmm.
oh, his or her mother raised her to be the best that she could
Yeah.
be or he can be. And I'll be like, hey, wait a minute now, like, he wasn't raised by just his mother. His
Yeah.
father was there too.
Yeah.
because I've seen it happen in my own very eyes. So that's the thing that really makes me mad is that, you know, we always discredit the father
Mhm.
who was around, or
Mhm.
you have the father who tried to
Mhm.
have custody and try to be involved.
Mhm.
He always gets shunned by the
Yeah.
community.
Yeah. Even with when we think about this, and I try to be conscious of this, but I slip up every now and again with the wordage that I use because I'm a word person. As mothers, we have to, and I have to speak from a woman's point of view because I can never speak for a man. But as a
Hmm.
woman, I try to be conscious about saying I'm a single parent because I'm not a single parent. I'm a single woman and a parent of two children.
Hmm.
I don't have to raise my children alone. My children have tons of support. You know, we have a great family unit, and so we have to be careful with that wordage as well. But not only that, you know, making sure that we're aware of the people that we're bringing in our kids' life. I can tell you, being divorced, that's one of the scariest things to try to date and try to, you know, getting to know who that individual is. I'm like, nope, you're not coming around my kids. And if I feel like I can't bring you around my kids for whatever reason, once you get past that initial stage of like, I'm protecting and caring for my kids and making sure my kids aren't seeing people in and out, if you still feel like, nah, I still can't take this person around my kids, whatever connection you have, I don't care if it's sexual or whatever, you have to let that relationship go because that's not someone you even trust around two children that you birthed and you care about in this world. So we have to be aware of that as well. Being a single mother, being a single father, it exists. I know a lot of single fathers that do a hell of a good job. I know a lot, like literally, where there is no mother. There's just a father. One of my closer friends now raises both of his sons by himself and has for years. And yet you don't hear people talk about that. Or when you do, it's like this shock and this surprise that a man is doing it. It's like, no, a lot of men take care of their children, and there's women that's nowhere to be found, even if they are living. They out doing God knows what, are going through their own journey in life, and they can't be a parent at that point in time. And so we do have to start giving recognition to that and understand that there's a lot of fathers out there that are raising their children and doing a hell of a good job. And you know, they're raising their kids to be wonderful. It's not just the mothers that are doing that anymore.
Yeah, and and I would say like my father abandoned me took for 25 years,
Mhm.
but I was raised by my stepfather.
Mhm.
He he passed away,
Mhm.
and when I tell you, well, when my father came back into my life at 25, my
Mhm.
stepfather passed when I was 29,
Okay.
and and I was in a relationship at the time, and when I tell you that, I felt like my father died. Like this was the only
Yeah.
guy that I
Yeah. That's
knew.
who was there.
And my girlfriend was like, you know, why are you so upset? He's not even your real dad. And man, when I
Mhm.
tell you that
Mhm.
I became livid with her because it's like it doesn't
Yeah.
matter if you came out of somebody's ball sack. It's about
Yeah.
the person who helped mold you into who was there every day.
Mhm.
And when I meet women with kids, I don't get intimidated because it's
Mhm.
like I understand that okay, these are the most important people in her life, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to adjust to that. You know, I'm gonna have
Mhm.
to become, you know, involved. But it's just a lot of women just expect for every guy. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that it don't be women out here who have kids and but
Mhm.
it's just be women who be bringing a lot of men around their kids and
Yeah.
because with me I feel like you know it has to be like a 3 month trial or a 6 month trial. I got
Yeah,
to
to
learn
get to
you.
know this person before you go into a child's life that is innocent. And a lot of times you may become attached to the kid and then you feel guilty. That can make a relationship go longer than necessary. Or you're just like, okay, now I have to abandon this kid that you may look at me later in life and be like, oh, I remember you were with my parent and you just left. And so we have to be careful of that. Bringing people in and out of our kids' life, that causes them a lot of mental anguish. It can cause children to feel abandoned. And not only that, if a person can't recognize that even though a person wasn't your blood, that you still consider them more than blood, more than blood could ever provide, that was a person that you didn't need to be around anyway, because they didn't even understand that blood does not always make you family. It's much
No.
more than that. It's the love, it's the care, it's the loyalty, it's the I'll go and protect this person with my entire life that connects you with the person. There's a lot of us that can say, I have family, but I probably could be like, hey, just like it was a stranger on the street, because you don't have that connection with them, even though they have the same blood as you. And it doesn't mean you don't care for them. It just means that, hey, this is the dynamic of our relationship and how it has been built.
Yeah, and it is also something that doesn't get discussed because you have, boys who grew up to be men and they don't know
Mm-hmm.
how to do man things.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
and we expect so much out of a man who
Mm-hmm.
grew up with just their mother,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we get shamed because we don't know how to change a tire, or we don't know how to tie a tie, we don't know how to,
Yeah.
fix a sink or do certain
Mm-hmm.
things. Because I would say that I ain't never been on a fishing trip. I never went camping. I
Yeah.
never went hiking. I never really knew how to do
Yeah.
man things. And everyone look at me like, you don't know how to do all that? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, hey, I'm learning. I'm
And
learning
that's
like
what it's
you learning.
about. Yeah. It's okay for you to be learning how to do things. A lot of times people just feel like there's this rite of passage that everyone has experienced the same thing that they have, and that's not correct. There's a lot of people that, hell, I never been fishing, but some of the people in my family, the greatest fishers that I've ever heard of, they'll catch a fish, skin it, scale it, fry it up, everything. And I've never done that.
Right.
I have younger brothers that know how to do that, and I don't know how. And they learned because they end up going and meeting somebody and went on a fishing trip. And here I am, like, okay, how you do that? My kids know how to fish. I'm taking them fishing, and I don't know how to fish, but it's all about what we allow ourselves to learn and what we're willing to experience. As long as we have breath in our body, I mean, literally, I live by this. Every day that I wake up, I find a new reason to add more purpose. Every day. I stay up literally until sometime 5 o'clock in the morning. The latest I go to bed is between 4 and 4:30 in the morning. And I still have to wake up with my kids by 7:30 to make sure that they doing everything they need to do, eat breakfast, everything for school. Every day that we are alive, every day that we have breath, there's no excuse for not being ever evolving. We should always be evolving. Life is not stagnant. When things happen to us, we'll be like, well, it felt like life kept going on even though I was in this place. That's because it really did keep going on, because life
Hmm.
is not stagnant, it's ever evolving. So I consider myself to be ever evolving. Every day that I wake up, I woke up the other day and was like, you know what? I might go become a nurse, even though I done did all this other stuff. And I'm like, do I really want to be a nurse? Or, you know what? Like right now, I'm going through the process because Harvard is letting people into different certification programs. I said, well, you know what? I don't want to go to Harvard, but I want to go to Harvard. So maybe I'll go get a certification from Harvard. And people always say, when do you sleep? How are you able to do this? Throughout this pandemic, I had for years had the dream of opening my own mental health practice, opening another business for life coaching, opening my podcast. I just finished with my designer for my merchandise line that's coming out. Like there's a lot of different things that I do, and people are like, how do you have the time? And you have two children that are in the home with you. You have all of these different things. I say, you know what? When you care about something, you're passionate about something, you're going to make the time for that. There is no excuse. I could say, hey, I have kids, so I'm not going to get up and give my full effort. Well, yeah, I have kids. That was my choice to have kids. Now, what am I going to do to make sure that I can still accomplish the goals that I have as an individual? Outside of being a mother, I still have to be able to meet my goals.
Yeah. Speaking of goals, what are your next goals that you accomplish besides that?
I didn't hear you. You froze.
I said, speaking of goals, so what are your next goals for the next 5 years?
Yeah. So in 5 years, I plan on being 5 years away from retirement. I am 30 years old now. By the time I hit 40, I plan on retiring. I am setting my business up to be global. I have people in other countries that are currently working for me. I'm trying to get people, I'm trying to give people options outside of feeling like forever they have to do a 9 to 5. There's other options other than doing those things. So right now, I can tell you 2022 is going to be focused on my merchandise line. I want to say 2023 is going to be focused on me launching a couple of books about mindfulness and mental health. Just I have a list of different things that I've already set as goals that are going to happen. And I can tell you, by the time 10 years are from now, my businesses are going to be global because that's what I'm setting them up for. I've started to gain mentors that are international. My actual mentor is international, a multimillionaire international. I talk to them all the time. You have to put yourself in front of people that are going to help elevate your mind. When I started my businesses, everybody I talked to, I said, listen, I'm the uplift and inspire lady. I'm the lady that's going to be in people's households, on their radios, on their clothing, on their utensils, whatever it is. My brand is going to make it all around the world. And because I have that mindset, every day I get up and I'm researching, okay, how do I go through the federal process? How do I go international? How do I make sure I set my brand up even now being at a state level? And I have different people that, like, right now I have a client that's in Bangladesh. Like, we have to be okay with expanding our knowledge. In between time when I'm just sitting in the house doing nothing, I'm relearning Spanish. I'm teaching myself Spanish again so that when I'm going to these different meetings, I can say, you know what? Okay, I know I can go over here and I can start my businesses in this area because I'll be fluent in that. Every moment of the second of the day that we have, it's an opportunity for us to do something. So I can tell you, in 5 years, there's a lot of different things that are going to transpire, but I definitely will be halfway to the mark of retirement because my goal is to travel. My goal is to, if I have clients that I'm still seeing in 10 years, I'll be like, oh, I'll see 2 clients, but go to this office or this branch here because that's who I have over there that's going to be a good match for you. That's what I plan on doing. I plan on having someone all around the world in every time zone that's going to be able to meet the needs of my clients.
Whew, man, I must say, like, you have been one of the top 10 favorite guests of mine.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank
loving it. I'm
you.
loving this. I'm loving this, and I wish I didn't. I wish I didn't have to let you go or anything like that, because I'm just
Yeah.
so very, very intrigued with this convo. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm glad you reached out to me because,
Yes.
man, I'm just soaking all this up.
Yes. Listen, and I'll tell you this before I go. I'm gonna give a shameless plug really quick. Uh I am actually, for people that are looking for a therapist or a life coach, I'll say specifically therapy because I think we got to start with the mental piece of it. My
Hmm.
company, Uplift and Inspire LLC, we are still doing discounted sessions up until the 1st of March. When the 1st of March hit, we gonna have a different special. It ain't gonna look the same. So right now we're giving literally $25 off of each session. And if it's someone that comes and they have chronic illnesses, chronic pains, anything like that, then you might be walking through the door with free sessions. So just so
Oh,
people
y'all heard
know.
that? Free, free.
Yes, listen, I've been telling people, do not put off today. What don't put off to tomorrow what you can do today. Our mental health is priority. If we can buy different gadgets, we can invest in our music, our clothing lines, we can invest in all of these appearances things, these material things. We definitely can do a tune up for our mental health. There's nothing wrong with it. And definitely I appreciate you having me on. I definitely had to reach out to you because I feel like what you're doing, absolutely, this is just the beginning for you. Absolutely. I've seen just the talent and the growth over the course of your episodes. And I was like, yeah, I got to be on that because I want to be like, I was on this show before. So, I definitely, I'm proud and I'm honored to be a guest on your show.
Oh, thank you. It was good having you, and I learned so much because, like I tell everybody, whenever I interview people, it just your stories make me become a better person,
Hmm.
and because we all need that perspective, different
Yes.
perspectives, and because we so caught up in our viewpoint that we forget everyone else has a viewpoint as well, and it's just
Hmm.
all about healing each other, and if we can heal each other, then we can heal our city. Then we go from the
Yep.
city to the state, to the state, to the
Yep.
country, then the country
Hmm.
to the continent, to the continent,
Yep.
to the world. So that's what it's all
Yes.
about.
Yep. And we will do it. We got to start somewhere. So you're using your platforms. I'm using my platforms. People that have other platforms are coming on here. All of us have just as much a powerful voice than people that have millions of followers. They started here. We're starting here. One day we're going to be those people, and people are going to remember, hey, I remember where they started. And because I followed their journey, I'll be there too.
Yeah, I would love to have you back for season 2
Yeah,
this summer.
listen. If you give me a topic, we'll get into it. We will get into it.
Oh yeah, 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 no doubt, no doubt. Because you most definitely coming back. Because this
Yes.
was amazing. It didn't even seem like it went on for an hour and 5 minutes, but it did.
Did it really?
Yeah, yeah. And so what's your website and your contact info for everyone who's
Yes,
interested?
yes. So, actually, it's easier if people follow me on look up Uplift and Inspire LLC. That's my therapy page. Or a quick way to find me is if they just go add me on my page here because my Domonika Thomas is actually my professional page as well. And so if they go and follow me, Domonika Thomas, they will see for when it says like work and stuff like that, you'll see that I'm CEO and founder of these companies. They all have their own Facebook pages and they're linked to everything else. So I'm on Facebook, Uplift and Inspire LLC, Uplift and Inspire Mindfulness Coaching, as well as on Instagram, the same thing.
Okay, well, I just want to say thank you, Miss Thomas, for coming on my
Thank
show. And
you. Thank you for having me.
oh, no problem, and we're gonna have to do this again.
Yes, just let me know when and I will make myself available.
Okay, no doubt. And you have yourself a wonderful night,
Thank
and
you.
God
Thank
bless.
you. All right.
All right,
Bye.
bye.